Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to the Double Oak Town Council Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Cross Timbers Gazette. I'm Bob Weir, and I will be the moderator for this evening's Candidate Forum. I'm here with Max Miller, publisher of the Cross Timbers Gazette. The Cross Timbers Gazette is Denton County's largest locally owned newspaper, mailed to over 57,000 homes and businesses each month. Congratulations, that's wonderful, including every mailbox in Double Oak. Our local lives here. You can also read the latest Southern Denton County news online anytime at www.crosstimbersgazette.com, also on their Facebook and Twitter pages. Tonight's forum is being live streamed and video recorded by the town of Double Oak, and you can watch it on demand anytime at crosstimbersgazette.com. Before we introduce our candidates, let's open with a prayer from Mayor Mike Donnelly.
Good evening. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful evening in the town of Double Oak in Denton County and in the state of Texas. We come this evening to hear these candidates as they talk about what they view as the future for Double Oak. We ask you to be with each of them as they go through the forum tonight. Be with our residents who are here. Let them get viewpoints and answers to help them in the upcoming election. We ask you to be with our public and safety officers, our police, our fire, and our military around the country, around the nation, around the world. We ask you to be with those in our town, in our community, who are dealing with health issues. They're certainly in our thoughts and prayers. As well, we keep the Dr. Bimmerly, former Mayor Bimmerly's family, in our thoughts and prayers this evening on his recent passing. We ask this through your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now have the pledges of allegiance led by Boy Scout Ryan Tyler from Troop 99. Thank you, Ryan Tyler. And now I would like to introduce the Double Oak mayoral candidates, Gene Hillyer and Patrick Johnson. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. After the opening statements, I'll ask the candidates questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. We will also allow for an optional 30-second rebuttal. Finally, there will be a 1 minute for closing statements. Ryan Tyler will be our timekeeper tonight. Okay, we will begin our 1 minute opening statements with Gene Hillyer.
I'm Gene Hillyer. I've been an educator in public schools and at the university level for almost 18 years. During this time, I was elected by my peers to serve in leadership positions in professional organizations at the local, state, regional, and national levels. I worked for IBM for almost 22 years in sales and marketing positions, consistently meeting or exceeding annual sales objectives individually and as a sales team leader. As a 41-year member of a philanthropic education organization, which is dedicated to providing scholarships, grants, and loans for women in education, I have served as an officer at both chapter and state levels. As a chapter president for 4 terms and 2 chapters, I'm experienced in running meetings, organizing committees, and getting the work of the organization done in a timely and efficient manner. 2 master's degrees in library science enable me to locate accurate data and facts to support my work on behalf of all of the citizens of Double Oak. My experience working for IBM enables me to work with vendors and businesses that provide services to Double Oak in a fiscally responsible manner.
Thank you, Gene. Patrick Johnson, your 1 minute opening, please.
Thank you. I'm Patrick Johnson. I've lived in Double Oak for 18 years. I'm president of Comco Systems, a woman-owned business located in Lake Dallas. I've been married for 30 years, and I have 2 daughters, both nurses. In my first year on town council, I was selected as mayor pro tem and served as the interim mayor for 8 weeks. During this time, I led the discussions on the SLFRF funds allocated to our town, focused on tax relief through passage of a lowered property tax rate benefiting the 65 and over exemption. Most recently, I co-sponsored with Mayor Donnelly the Double Oak homestead exemption of 1%, which ultimately passed with unanimous consent. I endorsed the pay increase to allow Double Oak Police Department competitive pay, while at the same time, we still were able to lower the property tax. I represented Double Oak at the Denton County TRIP 2022 road bond meetings and brought awareness to Denton County to the Denton County grant proposal for high-density housing in which the Double Oak Town Council defeated. Leadership does matter when electing a mayor with 19 years of leadership experience. I have the vision to maintain safe and secure community for the citizens of Double Oak. As I've already demonstrated, I am confident I can accomplish the tremendous amount of work that will take to keep Double Oak great. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. We'll now begin a question and answer format. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question, and we also allow for the optional 30-second rebuttal. If you want to rebut a question, please just let me know, and you'll get 30 seconds. The questions will be asked in rotating order. All right, we begin with Gene Hillyer, and the question is, what would you consider your strongest leadership skill, and how would it benefit the town?
My strongest leadership skill is the ability to work with everybody involved in any individual organization to bring consensus to making the best decision for the organization at the time.
Thank you, Gene. Same question for Patrick Johnson.
Well, I think leadership evolves around really the respect for the people that you work for. In terms of organizing, the type of individuals that you want to work for allows us the ability to basically be in a position to organize and to coach, mentor, and grow those around us. For example, with the new town council, even though I've only got a short-term time of experience on council, we'll have new council people that will come on board. It's important that the mayor works with that council to bring them up to speed as quickly as possible. I plan to do that. And I've had a great mentor in many folks that have allowed me to step in and lead.
Thank you, Patrick. The next question, we begin with you, and the question is, if elected, how will you ensure and enhance transparency and communication in local government?
Well, I believe in open lines of communication. In the past, we've had situations where, as a council, we've tried to take items and issues and move them from discussion to consideration to action right away without getting the town involved. So I believe that as the mayor sets up the agenda and works the meetings, he must allow the town citizens the ability to have their voice heard as well on specific agenda items. As far as the lines of communication that have already been set up with our town website, our email system, and some of the Friday email drops that we have, it's important to continue those on and enhance them in many ways, as well as working towards also doing the same thing and starting to promote our businesses.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question for Gene Hillyer.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. If elected, how will you ensure and enhance transparency and communication in local government?
I'm a firm believer in transparency, and I'm also a firm believer in the fact that council members are responsible for reading all of the material that's issued in an agenda packet, so that when they are coming to meetings, they are actually prepared to work through the issues, sometimes in one meeting, sometimes in multiple meetings if there is additional information required. As mayor, I would ensure that if any council member has an agenda item, that the accompanying information is included in the agenda packet so that council members can come to the meetings prepared either to vote one way or the other on the issue or have prepared questions, having the ability to have done their research. I also, while I believe in transparency, there are, I think, some small limits in terms of cybersecurity that need to be observed, which is why the town does have a policy for redacting some information that members of the public might request.
Thank you, Gene. We begin the next question with you. The question is, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing the town of Double Oak, and how would you address it?
Actually, it's come to my attention. I guess I didn't really think about it much, but as I've been going, knocking on a lot of doors in Double Oak and just having some wonderful conversations, there are a number of residents that aren't really comfortable with technology. don't use social media. Some don't really care for email or even use computers. So I'm thinking about a lot of the communications that come from the town, like the Friday communications, council agenda packets, and just the ability to access town information, and have realized that perhaps unwittingly and unintentionally, we are keeping some of those people in the dark. And I don't have an immediate answer in terms of how to resolve that problem, but it's something that I'm looking for options to address.
Thank you, Gene. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
I think we have a drainage problem in Double Oak, and I think everybody knows it. There are different parts of our community that have different challenges. Some of it is related to what goes on at the street. Some of it goes on in their backyard. And, you know, I'm proud to say that it was a part of the council that approved a drainage study that will take place. We should receive it back in about 3 to 4, maybe 5 months, in which we will be able to start to compare it to the 2007 drainage study and see what really has changed over that period of time. Also proud that the council that we passed for 4 community sessions with the citizens. I think the council needs to take the study, spend some great amount of time with it before we present it to the town, but then allow the town input to review what it is that the town council would like to permit or promote to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. For the next question, we begin with you, and the question is, as a small town, Double Oak has a good record of retaining its employees. What are your thoughts on retaining employees and attracting good candidates when positions open?
Well, we've been very lucky to keep our town administration and most of our town staff in terms of our police department. We had some unfortunate situations the past few years with officers passing. But, you know, for example, I'll use the police department. We passed the 20.7% increase in the budget last year to allow us to go out and compete and retain some of the best officers. And what Chief Rivas has done over the past 6 or 7 months with his hiring and his talent has been excellent. But we can't forget our town administration as well. And I believe that working with the town administration, there are a lot of additional efficiencies that we can gain with the town. We can become better, but that comes with coaching. And I've coached and mentored all of my life, and I know that I can bring that to the town administration, and we can just improve or raise the bar for what it is we offer to the citizens.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question for Gene Hillyer.
Would you repeat that?
Sure. As a small town, Double Oak has a good record of retaining its employees. What are your thoughts on retaining employees and attracting good candidates when positions open?
I believe that you need to, as mayor and town council, we need to work proactively and in a collegial manner with our employees. If you work with them sitting down, there is something about coaching. I wouldn't disagree with that. However, if you work with them in a positive manner to bring out their best work, they're going to do their best work for the town. And that's how I work with people. I'm on the Roads and Drainage Committee here, which means I spend a fair amount of time with Randall Englund. I'm also on the Technology Committee, and I spend loads of time with Brian Schultz working on a variety of projects to maintain our technology infrastructure. I would call it our digital backbone. So I would continue that kind of thing. I'm also very actively engaged with our police department and our fire department, because both provide essential services to maintain town safety.
Thank you, Gene. We begin the next question with you. Building consensus is paramount as a leader. How do you feel your peers on council would rate you in that category?
In my various leadership opportunities, both in education and personal volunteer activities with PEO, as well as in IBM, I found that the best way to reach, one of the better ways that's effective for me in my leadership style is working collaboratively with people to actually sit down and in a non-emotional way, look at the facts, look at the objectives of whatever the situation is, to come up with the best alternative for the town or the situation that's at hand. And that's doing that in a fiscally responsible manner with transparency, and again, for all the residents and citizens of Double Oak.
Thank you, Gene. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
Well, there's no doubt that on any town council, you're going to have some differences. And that's what a town council should be about. And when it comes to working with the other council members, at times we had some clashes with total transparency, but at times we came together. And I think it's important that we share all the facts when we can or when we have them. If the facts change, make sure that we communicate those facts. But more importantly, we should always be asking, is this the best thing for the town and the town citizens? And sometimes it's not always going to be the best for the citizens as well. And those are the tough times that we have to deal with. So we must come together, although it's difficult to come together as a council because of a quorum scenario. But yet there are still ways that we can communicate positively without violating rules that enable the town to understand what it is that we're wanting to present and the message we want to carry.
Thank you, Patrick. We begin the next question with you. Question is, do you support current staffing and compensation/benefit levels in town administration and the police department? Would you propose any changes in either department?
Well, right now, I believe coming out of our last budget cycle, we were able to take our police department. So there was a survey that was done to where out of 33 entities, the Double Oak Police Department was number 31 out of 33. Working with the town council during my time as interim mayor, we were able to put together a package that took the pay up by 20.7%, which moved the salaries for our police department to right below the median for the 33 entities. And that's just a step to get there, because in previous councils, they somewhat have failed to keep up with what we needed to do for the police. As far as our town administration, we have built into our budgeting each and every year percentages of merit increase, and we will hold to that as long as we're doing the proper reviews along with it. So I think we're staffed well, and I think we're taking care of our town.
Thank you, Patrick. Jean Hillyer, your response, please.
I agree with what Patrick has said, and building on that, there was a lot of contention last year over actually employee salaries. And the person who actually did the vast majority of work on the proposal to get the police salaries, specifically the patrol officers, where they needed to be competitive, was Casey Parsons, because she's got the background and the experience to do that. So she's the one that worked closely with Chief Rivas to build that and present it to council in a manner that everybody on the council and the community could understand. So I was very supportive of that, to the extent that I signed a petition that was signed also by an additional number of residents in Double Oak, saying that we were willing to raise our taxes on an annual basis to support our police. I am 100% for that. We need a package that is salary and benefit competitive if we want to retain our police and our town employees.
Thank you. Oh, would you like a rebuttal?
Yes.
Please.
We can still continue to pay our police and pay our town administration without necessarily having to increase our taxes. We're a very, very rich town in terms of our fund balances and such, where we've already increased our revenues off of franchise fees and retail. So we don't have to think about raising taxes in order to compensate our town administration and our police department.
Rebuttal, please.
Please.
It's my understanding when you're doing fiscally responsible budgeting in the community that you do not pay ongoing expenses out of the rainy day fund, if you will, or the balance sheet. That comes out of operational expenses, which come from taxes and other revenues to the community.
Another rebuttal, please.
So, which is true, except for the fact that it's all the town's money, and it's all been put into different buckets, just as we do during budgeting. And that money is there because the town citizens paid their taxes and they paid their share. That can be adjusted in order to cover those expenses if we do not have to raise taxes to do it.
Any others?
Yes. While that is true that the town can do that, we have a resolution that says we keep 50 to 75% of our budget available in the event of some unexpected event. So if we start draining that bucket, we could hit the wall someday, and then we would be in financial trouble.
Okay, we'll go for another one. Go ahead. Another rebuttal.
if you do your research, most towns keep between 23 and 28% in their fund budgets to cover for a 3 to 4 month period. Double Oak has twice that and almost 3 times that. We have the ability to compensate appropriately without raising taxes.
Gene, would you like a last?
One more time, I am not in favor of raising taxes, but if necessary, I am in favor of it. And as I said earlier, we have a resolution that says we don't take that percentage down. So being a very fiscally responsible town, I maintain that we stick with that resolution.
Okay, let me move to the next question, which we begin with Gene Hillyer. Are there any town services or amenities not currently being provided that you feel would benefit citizens?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there are residents who are not comfortable with technology, who don't use it. And that would be one thing that I think could be looked into. And I'm not saying that there are inexpensive solutions out there. I haven't really had a chance to give it a lot of thought. But in terms of other services and amenities, Double Oak doesn't really have amenities like tennis courts and town libraries and other kinds of, those kinds of amenities. So I'm really more focused on maintaining the roads and drainage, our digital backbone, and the buildings and everything that the town really is responsible for.
Thank you, Gene. Patrick Johnson, your response, please.
Well, we're covered real well. We've got a Class A Double Oak Police Department. We've got a Class A Double Oak Volunteer Fire Department. We've got someone who, Public Works, does a really fine job for us, working with Mr. Kohler. So where I think we could make some improvements is taking a harder look at investing back in how we're setting up our volunteer committees. We have roads and drainage put together. It was a question that came up last year. I would like to see roads and drainage be split because I think drainage it could become a bigger priority than roads in the future. And I'd like to see us focus separately with those, but equal. But basically be in a position to where one doesn't supersede the other.
Thank you, Patrick. We'll begin the next question.
Well, I'd like a rebuttal on that.
Oh, would you? Oh, please.
Yes. Sitting on the Roads and Drainage Committee and being actively engaged in it has given me a really, really in-depth view of what's going on in that. And the town is responsible for drainage under the streets and the streets. So if you have 2 committees, which requires more volunteers, then you've got a lot more coordination going on among volunteers. And these are ad hoc committees. So they're not committees that take minutes. So in a town this size, it doesn't really make sense.
Anybody else? Okay.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, you want one?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
I just didn't want to butt in.
Okay.
They're ad hoc committees today. They don't have to be ad hoc committees in the future. I think we're going to find when we get our drainage study back that it's a bigger issue than we think it is. And I get that it's the streets and it's the bar ditches and all of that. But then again, we can go draw from some specific expertise that can enable us to organize faster, better, and quicker and be more precise with what action we take.
Rebuttal, please.
Right.
While I understand your desire to split those, I also understand that we are hiring an engineering firm, Half Associates, who has the expertise to help the town or assist the town in determining what our priorities are and the order that we should conduct those in. So to even presume that volunteers, even if they're astute and knowledgeable in making those determinations, is a little bit out of range.
But the Drainage Committee would actually be the liaison to the engineering firm, the voice from the citizens, compiled and taken to the engineering so that the engineering firm can be more focused based upon what the Drainage Committee puts in front of them for the purpose of making something happen.
So you're basically saying that the Roads and Drainage is incapable of doing that work based on their years and years and years of experience and dedication to doing that in Double Oak?
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that drainage is becoming a big issue, and there's a lot of time spent on the roads, not a lot of time spent on the drainage. If we separate the two and we go at it at the same time, we're going to get there much quicker.
I disagree, because it's the Roads and Drainage Committee that I worked with to bring that proposal to the town council from our engineering firm, Half Associates. And that took quite a bit of time last year before it even remotely was ready to come to the town council, including whether or not it would be appropriate to use SLFRF funds to fund that study.
All right, can we move on to the next question? Okay. We begin with Patrick Johnson for this question. What should be done to diversify the town's tax base?
That is a question that is quite difficult, because if you look at the breakdown of the town, you look at the tax base that we have, you look at the fact that we're at 47.3 average age of the citizens that pay taxes here. The state of Texas is around 35%. I think we have 23% of our citizens are over 65. So when it comes to, last year, the previous council passed the 65 exemption, and the council that we sat on while I was interim mayor basically passed the no new revenue rate, which locked that in. So we have that to consider. We've got homestead exemptions that we just put in place. I think it's a matter of manage it in more of a total than to break it down into specifics.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question, Gene Hillyer.
As Patrick mentioned, the town is pretty much built out. There is one piece of property that's available it's zoned ag right now. It's 24 acres up on Simmons and 407. But it probably could be converted to commercial development if the right proposal came forward to the town. That would be compatible with Double Oak values and would be an asset to the town. So that would be a possible additional revenue source. The other thing that I'd like to remind our residents of is the fact that anytime you place an order online, if you have it delivered to Double Oak, we get the town sales tax. So please, if there's an option between sending it here and sending it someplace else, have it sent here. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. We begin the next question with you, and it is, as mayor, it's important to have good relationships with leaders of neighboring towns and county officials. How would you rate your ability to build and maintain those relationships?
Historically, I have a very good record of developing relationships with other organizations. It's essential to this town, especially since there is a lot of growth and development going on around us. Being a full-time retiree, I have time, so I go to, like, when there's a development like Cummings Ranch last year, and then most recently the Smith Ranch down here that Flower Mound's considering. I actually go to those meetings and hear what the local, like the Flower Mound residents, have to say, but I'm also very interested because there's a potential impact on Double Oak. So my intent would be to continue to go to all those meetings, also to go to the planning and zoning meetings and to meet with the mayors and other officials. Because I have the time, I don't have to sit there and say, I got to go to work, don't have time today, or I'm really tired. So I'm here full-time to serve as mayor to meet the town's needs, to make sure that their development projects have minimal or no impact on Double Oak.
Thank you, James. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
Well, as Mayor Pro Tem, I've been attending the Denton County Mayor's Luncheons. I've got to know Mayor France, I've got to know Mayor Jaworski, I've got to Mayor Carrington out in Bartonville, and I've asked them a lot of questions about what they do and how they run their towns. A good example of that is I reached out to the mayor of Bartonville when we had the TRIP 2022 bond issue. The previous mayor had committed roads for Bartonville in a letter that had sent to Denton County, and Bartonville got very upset with Double Oak because of that. And I had at least 2 to 3 meetings with the mayor of Bartonville. The citizens were still upset, but working together with the mayor of Bartonville, we were able to cool that down and overcome that. So, in regards to time to do the job, it's all about organization, it's prioritization, it's planning. And I've shown that, and I can be just as much a full-time mayor as anyone else can.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, we begin the next question with you, Patrick, and it is the last question. And it is, what is the biggest issue in the mayoral election that has not been discussed tonight?
I didn't think we'd get all the way through it, but traffic. Double Oak has become a pass-through city, or pass-through town, excuse me. And then now it's becoming a very fast pass-through town. And it's on the top of mind for a lot of folks as I've been walking around talking to folks. Simmons has become a raceway, Tanglewood, Cross Timbers, and now that Waketon is done. And then Kings has always been a very busy highway. The exciting part about it is that the council did have a conversation with Chief Rivas, and we're now patrolling those streets more than we have been in the past. Maybe not as much on 407, but on Simmons and the other streets. And I think we've got to add Cedar Crest to that because it's getting pretty busy over there. So traffic, I would say, is the one thing that we didn't discuss tonight.
Thank you, Patrick. Gene Hillyer, your response?
I've actually been, because I've been actively involved with the Double Oak Fire Department, Police Department, sitting on roads and drainage, as well as technology, I've realized that this town benefits immensely from all of the volunteers who lend their time and expertise to keeping us moving forward in town. But one thing I've also noticed specifically would be roads and drainage. We have some volunteers who've been on that committee for years, who know Double Oak like the back of their hand. They could probably walk it with their eyes closed. But these volunteers are getting older. And what we really need to do is start to focus on getting some of the younger members of our community engaged in that committee and others so that we can have a warm pass of the baton and really make sure that that knowledge that's within that committee gets passed so that they understand where we've been and how we got here so that we can continue to proceed on into the future. So I think we really need to focus on getting some younger members of the community to volunteer. Volunteer Fire Department does a great job of that.
Thank you, Gene. We'll now conclude with 1-minute closing statements. We will begin with Patrick Johnson.
Thanks to the Cross Timbers Gazette, Bob Max for hosting, our Eagle Scout, and our town administration. Thank you to the Double Oak citizens in attendance and for those watching on YouTube. Thank you to the Denton County Conservative Coalition for their endorsement of my candidacy for mayor. I would like to recognize and thank Mayor Donnelly for all the years of dedication and hard work for the betterment of Double Oak. I personally want to thank him for the hours he has spent mentoring me the past 7 months and providing me the experience to grow as Mayor Pro Tem, which has prepared me for the position of Mayor of Double Oak. Mike, you are a humble and remarkable person, and the imprint that you have left on me and the Double Oak community will never be forgotten. I'm confident my 19 years of experience leading organizations, coaching people, and building successful teams will allow me to work swiftly with the new town council and to focus on important priorities of the citizens of Double Oak. My priorities will be transparency, financial stewardship, listening to the citizens of Double Oak, and work diligently to keep Double Oak great. Leadership does matter, and leadership with experience matters even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Gene Hillyer, your closing statement, please.
As a retiree, there are no conflicts with work and serving the needs of Double Oak. I have dedicated myself full-time the past year to serving the town with integrity, honesty, and humility, and will continue to do so as your mayor. Double Oak is a gem and must remain so even as development continues around us. I am an active, engaged member of the Roads and Drainage Committee and the Technology Committee, focusing on maintaining our physical and digital infrastructure. Focuses on essential services means continuing active engagement with our police and volunteer fire departments, town staff, fellow mayors, and county officials. Thank you to the town of Double Oak and the Cross Timbers Gazette for sponsoring this event, and Bob Weir for conducting the forum, and to the best timekeeper ever. Please vote for Gene Hillyer.
Thank you to the mayoral candidates. If you would give them a round of applause, please. All right, we'll now have the town council candidates take to the dais for the second part of the forum.
Do you want alphabetical or? Okay, Brittain. Okay. And then Miller. Okay. There.
You get
This one? Okay.
All right, I would now like to welcome and introduce the Double Oak Town Council candidates. We have 4 candidates running for 2 at-large council seats. The candidates are Ginger Brittain, Mike Gwartney, Lisa Miller, and Pat Wellen. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, and we'll begin our opening statements with, well, that would be, as soon as I get my act together here, that would be Ginger Brittain, your opening statement.
Thanks to each of you for attending tonight. My name is Ginger Brittain. I'm a Texas girl through and through, born and raised in the West Texas town of Abilene. Upon moving to the Irving, Las Colinas area, I began my corporate work career. First with Michael Stores, Inc., second with the Associates, a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company, third with Alliance Data, supporting the General Counsel and his staff, finally with J.P. Morgan Chase, supporting an executive director who was a 3 down from Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase. With each of these positions, my knowledge and experience level expanded. I developed excellent client relationship skills, strong communication, oral and written, budget and financial management, attention to detail, along with time management. Through the questions tonight and my closing statement, you will see how my experience and skills will provide the residents of Double Oak the best choice for town council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Mike Gwartney, your 1 minute opening, please.
Thank you, Max and Bob, for allowing us to be here, and thanks for everyone for coming out. I've been married for 43 years and have 3 grown boys and 1 daughter-in-law. Sorry I get emotional when I talk about my family. After 20 years in Louisville, we moved to Double Oak in 2020 for our family to take care of my mother and father-in-law. I am a self-employed general contractor with a real estate partner where we flip homes. Along with my wife, I founded a nonprofit that builds radio stations in South Sudan, Africa, and my wife owns her own business. I am running because I am concerned about the way our tax dollars have been spent. The previous council allowed money to be spent frivolously that should not have been spent. I believe it is my money, my tax dollars. My goal is to make a difference. While people like to complain and talk about how bad the government is, little action or risk is ever taken. I am willing to do my best to keep Double Oak great. I will listen to the residents of Double Oak, allowing them to share their thoughts, ideas, concerns, asking questions when I do not understand their concerns. I will do everything to keep our taxes low and to make sure that we do not spend money frivolously.
Thank you, Mike. Lisa Miller, your opening statement, please.
Hello, my name is Lisa Miller. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and listening to all the candidates. I am married to Brandon Miller. We've been married for 25 years. He is a member of the volunteer fire department. We have 1 son, Justin, and he is attending University of Mary Hardin Baylor as a nursing student. I have lived in Double Oak for 4 years, and I have been with my current employer for 25 years. I've held positions in purchasing, finance, and marketing. I feel that these positions can definitely benefit somebody on the town council. I want to tell a little story. When first time that I drove through Double Oak, I was dropping my son off at his friend's house. And when I stopped, I called my husband and told him I found out where I wanted to live for the rest of my life. And at that point, we started looking for our first home in Double Oak. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Pat Wellen, your opening statement, please.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Cross Timbers Gazette and also the citizens of Double Oak for coming out tonight and listening to the candidates. I'm a native Texan, born and raised in Houston. I hold a teaching certificate from Texas Tech University and a Master of Science degree from Oklahoma State University in Consumer Economics. My husband, Tom, and I have lived in Double Oak for 16 years. My husband's here. He's a first responder. He's sitting out here in the audience. And I have 2 grown children, and my son's here in the audience tonight, too, to support me. I'm the research director for the Boy Scouts of America and have worked for that organization for 25 years. I joined Scouting because I wanted to work for an organization that was values-based, that focused on youth development, community service, and leadership. I've been a member of the Double Oak Women's Club since 2008 and have been on the board since 2009 because of their focus on serving the community. I was appointed to the Double Oak 50th Anniversary Committee and also the Double Oak Strategic Planning Committee. I'm committed to keeping Double Oak great.
Thank you, Pat. We will now begin a question and answer format, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. We'll also allow for an optional 30-second rebuttal, and questions will be asked in rotational order. We begin the first question with Ginger Brittain. The question is, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing the town of Double Oak, and how would you address it?
I think the biggest issue facing the town is what has been mentioned previously by the two mayor candidates. Drainage and roads has been an ongoing challenge for the past council and for current council. With the spend of the $88,000 comprehensive drainage study conducted by Half and Associates, it will assist in determining how the dollars going forward are spent, and then how those areas are needed to be addressed. It will also help with the impact of the drainage on the roads and roads on the drainage. So this study should provide us with valuable information going forward on how we can approach better assisting our residents with their drainage problems and their roads, and how each of these committees impact, or these areas impact each other overall.
Thank you, Ginger. Same question, Mike Gwartney.
I think drainage is the biggest issue related to Double Oak. I think Kings Road is one of those issues also, but drainage comes up every time I walk the streets and meet the people. There was a lady I met that could draw a map from where the water started above her house all the way back down into Flower Mound and tell you where that water went. People I met over on Waken Road, they've talked about the idea that the new road has created major drainage problems in their area. So I've encouraged them to be part of the committee that gets involved in on that. And I told them when we get to a point of asking for input from the town people, the taxpayers, the people who pay to get this stuff done, I will come over to their house and invite them to the meetings.
Thank you, Mike. Lisa Miller, your response, please.
Yes, I agree with the other two candidates. Drainage is definitely a big issue in our town. In walking and speaking to a lot of our town residents, I have heard some horrible stories about what has happened. I think the drainage study that we have approved is great, and I can't wait to see how that works out for everybody and what improvements that we can make. Another issue is also communication. In going out and talking with a lot of the residents, we have a lot of senior residents who definitely are not understanding what's happening, and we need to find better ways to communicate with them. I don't know if we need to have a communication committee or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Pat Wellen, your response, please.
And I'm going to have to agree. As I've walked Double Oak also, there's not a road in Double Oak that I have not run across somebody who has talked about drainage first and the impact that it's had on their backyard, their front yard, their house being flooded. And so that is a major concern. Getting residents to have input is very important in this process. Talking to them, they want input. They want to be able to look at what comes out of the drainage study and help us prioritize as a town what we should do with that information. So I think that will be very important going forward.
Thank you, Pat. For the next question, we begin with Mike Gwartney. And the question is, are you familiar with Double Oak's budget, and what is your view of the town's current financial condition?
I think Double Oak is in a great position right now financially, and yes, I am familiar with the budget. I'm familiar that we have increased the police officers' pay. We have supported the volunteer fire department, and we do a good job, I think, of compensating our employees who do the day-to-day work of Double Oak. I think that we still got some work to do. I think there's some areas that we need to look at as far as how do we trim that a little bit further, and how do we get to no new revenue for next year?
Thank you, Mike. Same question for Lisa Miller.
Yes, with our current budget just under 2.3 and the size of our town, it definitely is reasonable. And I feel that our previous town council has done a wonderful job with budgeting and making sure that all of the revenue that comes in is spent appropriately. And obviously, we have one of the lowest tax rates in Denton County, which definitely helps out.
Thank you, Lisa. Pat Wellen, your response.
Yes, so I think that we are doing good financially as a town. In the first 6 months, we're at 78.8% of our total revenue that was projected in the budget. We've already collected that much. So we should end the year with a budget surplus if this continues and if we don't go wild on spending. I am in favor of keeping us at the no new tax revenue rate, which means that the dollars you pay in taxes will not increase even as your home values increase. So I know I'm talking with a lot of the residents as I walk around. That is also very important to them with these skyrocketing home values that we have. And also, we've done very well this year on our interest income, and we already have $38,792 more than we had expected. So we're way over budget for the interest we're earning.
Thank you, Pat. Same question for Ginger Brittain.
Yes, I am familiar with budgets. Serving as a council member previously, I have worked through the process of establishing a budget for the community. We've done a great job in balancing and maintaining our budget. Our CD balances as of 12/22 was a little over 400,000. We possibly have a surplus that was mentioned at the last town council meeting of 176,000 due to a lower bid on roads. I would like to see implementing a 2 to 4 year forecasting plan. So that way, when we move forward, we have some expectation on what we're looking at. And also getting information out to the residents, keep them informed of current and future spends. Perhaps holding forums with financial experts, having a tax collector come in on how to apply for exemptions and the benefit of doing so, as well as CPAs that could possibly answer questions and offer explanations on how the budget and terminology process works.
Thank you, Ginger. The next question, we begin with Lisa Miller, and the question is, Double Oak requires minimum 1 acre home sites. Under what circumstances, if any, would you be in favor of approving the development of housing under the 1 acre minimum?
Yes, I can say I would not ever approve having less than 1 acre lots.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Same question, Pat Wellen.
I have the same answer. I would never approve anything under 1 acre because as I go around and talk to the residents, a lot of the residents moved from Flower Mound and from surrounding towns because they love the 1 acre lots and that's what they're looking for. And that's the spirit of our community, is having more rural. So I'd stay with 1 acre.
Thank you, Pat. Same question for Ginger Brittain.
As a member of the founding family, and the town was established with a 1 acre ordinance in mind, that would not be an option for me under no circumstances whatsoever. So I would hold firm and true to that original founding.
Thank you, Ginger. Same question, Mike Gwartney.
I would not be, it should stay 1 acre.
Yes.
Anytime anybody wants to take a property and reduce it down from a 2 acre or a 3 acre or even the large acreage up there on 407, I think that should all be 1 acre lots.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We'll begin the next question with Pat Wellen. The question is, do you support current staffing and compensation/benefit levels in town administration and the police department? Would you propose any changes to either department?
So I do support the town staff and the current staffing that we have. And like the mayor said, or the people that are running for mayor said, we increased, or the town increased the patrol officers by 20.7%. That was desperately needed. They were way underpaid. And so I support that totally. The town staff has also received increases over time too, and cost of living increases and other increases, and that's written into there. And so I would support continuing to look at, are we competitive, to do some pay studies to see if we're competitive, because I think that's one of the things that we don't have that we need, is to look at what other towns pay around us to make sure we stay competitive.
Thank you, Pat. Same question for Ginger Brittain.
I think we're doing a good job on our payroll and our salaries. Unfortunately, as any other business and as your household expenses run, a budget dictates some of those parameters. So I think we need to be conscious in constantly looking for clear job descriptions in our positions, what those expectations are in those positions, clear direction on how those positions report to and have a good organizational chart as we bring in new employees or with our current staff. Provide additional training when necessary in order to do their jobs more efficiently, more productively, along with the proper tools, such as updated software applications and any other avenues that we can take to enhance those positions and provide good supporting avenues, continuing education for the staff.
Thank you, Ginger. Same question for Mike Gwartney.
I think that our salaries for our police officers and their compensation is in a good position right now. And of course, we'll evaluate that again when we get into budgets. But when it also comes to employees, their salaries seem to be in a good place. But there is not a yearly evaluation and review of employees right now that I understand. And I think that future raises and compensation should be tied as a percentage to those evaluations and items along that line. And then just as far as certification goes and who gets those certifications and when they're done, I think there needs to be a timely manner set to those certifications and the salaries related to those certifications.
Thank you, Mike. Same question. Lisa Miller?
Yes, I feel with the current town employees that we have, the 4 that we have, and then also with our police staff that we have, that they are being compensated adequately, especially with the benefits that they have, and that it is important for us to make sure, especially inside the town hall with the 4 staff that we have, that they hold many hats with being a small town and that they get the certifications that they need. And I agree that they also need to make sure that there is a time frame for those. We need to make sure that everyone is cross-trained internally and that we go ahead and we keep supporting them.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. For the next question, we begin with Ginger Brittain. The question is, where do you see potential for more commercial development, and what type of development would you support?
Well, we're very limited on options for commercial development. We're very landlocked. As one of the mayor candidates mentioned, we do have property located at 407s and Simmons that could possibly be converted into some kind of commercial area. But I think we would have to look very closely at what those options would be if that was an avenue that was taken, to make sure that it fits our lifestyle, to make sure it fits the necessary needs of the community, and also realize that what goes in there, what products they sell, what they have to offer, and how much sales tax will we benefit from the usage of that property. So I think there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of considerations that we would have to take in to look at rezoning or quantifying a commercial property.
Thank you. Same question, Mike Gwartney.
I think the commercial area on 407 is about the only area left for Double Oak to grow into from a commercial standpoint. I think the thing that we have to take into consideration when we're looking at that is what the traffic impact will be related to that area and what that would do also to Simmons right there along that line. Also on Chin Chapel, I heard from residents over there that there's a house that's going to be going up for sale for soon up there, and they're concerned that somebody will buy that property and try to buy the one next to it and then turn that into a commercial area. And so again, our job as council members and as mayors are to listen to the town people. They're the taxpayers. They're the ones that are paying our salaries, and they're the ones that we answer to.
Thank you. Same question for Lisa Miller.
Yes, currently the only land that we have for sale is the property on 407, which is 24 acres, and it is zoned as ag. We have to keep in mind on how this property could be sold also. I feel that we have to get the correct commercial or residential, some type of multi-use in there that would be benefit for the town and would actually complement the town and our way of life. One thing to keep in mind is that in doing that, if it's parsed out separately, like 10 acres and then 14 acres, making sure that it would all come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Pat Wellen.
Yes, with our last piece of land that's on 407 and Simmons there, as well as our other development down 407, where there are still some empty spaces within that strip shopping mall, I would like to see our town council take a more active role and our city take a more active role in trying to help bring in new tenants to those areas and keep the tenants that we currently have also. Also, in looking at the tax base, there are some businesses that can come in that we will not get taxes from. So we do need to be careful who we bring in. I did not realize that Living Earth, actually, we do not get sales tax from them, and because of the way it's set up. So when we bring different businesses in, we need to be aware of the sales tax base that we can bring in, since this is our last remaining place where we can get some additional sales tax for this town.
Thank you, Pat. For the next question, we begin with Mike Gwartney, and the question is, what do you feel is the town's top transportation issue, and how would you help solve it?
Well, I think the top transportation issue is going to be Kings Road in the future. And I think that the concern of the citizens who live on Kings Road should be desperately involved in the decisions that are made related to that. As Patrick already has said, we've got some commitment to Denton County already in the form of $500,000, and that needs to be looked at with Bartonville and other people in the involvement of that. But more important are the citizens who are going to be affected by that. Their land is going to be taken away in some form or fashion if we come in there with a wider road and with whatever it may be. And we need to have their input into what's happening.
Thank you. Lisa Miller, your response, please.
Yes, I agree. Kings Road is definitely a hot topic. I am a resident that lives on Kings Road, and I have a vested interest in that piece of area. We know improvements are going to happen, but what needs to happen is we need to talk to all the citizens of Double Oak and figure out what the best course of action would be for everybody. I would definitely need a traffic report, safety report, and an environmental report for us to make all the decisions that would be best for our town.
Thank you. Pat Wellen, your response, please.
And I agree, Kings Road coming up for redevelopment is a big opportunity for getting citizens involved, especially those that live along that road that will be most impacted, but all citizens that drive that road as well. There's another area that's of concern to me, and that is some of our exits onto 407. There are some blind spots right now where there are major accidents every week that I always hear sirens going from where I live. And so getting those figured out so that they are safe for our citizens as they leave our community is an important part of what we need to do.
Thank you. Same question, Ginger Brittain.
I agree that Kings Road is a hot topic. My husband and I sit at the corner of Kings, Shiloh, and McMakin, so we will feel that impact dramatically. But also, I think we have another issue that we have with traffic, and that's cut-through traffic from the surrounding communities. A large percentage of our citations are issued to non-residents of Double Oak, traveling to Lantana, Argyle, Denton, Bartonville. Bartonville just installed new speed signs on McMakin Road, reducing the speed from 40 to 30 in an attempt to cut down some of this cut-through traffic. Once we get into the Denton County project, along with some other road considerations, I think we need to look at car count, traffic studies to determine what particular areas, streets, and intersections may need to be addressed in regards to the cut-through traffic that the improvement to Kings Road will bring.
Thank you. The next question, we begin with Lisa Miller. The question is, what is your view on Double Oak being debt-free, and would you ever support the town taking on debt with a bank loan or bond?
So I feel that we are extremely strong by being debt-free, and in looking what's happened in the surrounding town, Argyle, and the debt that they have taken on, I see all the problems that it has caused. I would not be for taking on any debt unless it is absolutely necessary.
Okay, thank you. Pat Wellen, same question.
Yes, I would not be in favor of the town taking on any debt. We have a healthy balance sheet, balance funds that we can use in the future for the priorities of this town. we've been blessed that we have a council that has set aside money so that they can take care of those types of things like this Trip 22 that may be coming up. They have the forethought to start putting that money away now so that we don't have to go into debt to help build these roads. So I would not be in favor of debt.
Thank you. Same question for Ginger Brittain.
I'm in the same category as the other two candidates. I am not in favor of seeing us go into debt. We've been very fortunate to maintain a good balanced budget, but that's where you, the residents, have the input to guide any council member, whether it's now or in the future, to help make those decisions and make sure that the decisions we make with your dollars are appropriate and that our budget is clear and concise and easy to read for you guys to understand in all aspects, and to come to the council members or the mayor with your concerns regarding any kind of debt to be incurred or the current status of our finances.
Thank you. Same question, Mike Gwartney.
I don't think we should go into debt at all. And I think that if we need to have extra money for Kings Road or Simmons or whatever it may be, that we need to be putting that money back while we're in a good position and use that money to do that, but to never go into debt.
Thank you. The next question, we begin with Pat Wellen. The question is, the Double Oak Volunteer Fire Department is possibly the last all-volunteer fire department in Denton County. What are your thoughts on the current level of funding from the town, and would you consider increasing or decreasing funding?
So I grew up in a town that also had one of the last remaining volunteer fire departments in it. And that was always something that was special to that town. And so maintaining a good fire department that provides adequate protection for us is important. My husband's a first responder also. So the current funding is $100,000, plus they just increased the amount of liability that the town is paying on the equipment, or I understand it covers the building and all. We were underfunded on our insurance. And luckily, Connie Schoenrad, one of our current council members, found that out. So now they are adequately covered there. Also, they increased the amount of workman's comp insurance because we need to protect those people that are volunteering for us so that they don't have any expenses and all, that if something happens to them. So I would consider looking at what their needs are. And if their needs show that to keep the town safe, they need to be increased, then we could look at that as a council.
Thank you. Same question for Ginger Brittain.
Being one of the last volunteer fire departments in the state of Texas is very unique. And that's an additional attraction that brings people to Double Oak. Our fire department is very proactive in their training aspects for future firemen that come through there, not only for our communities, since we do not have a full-time paid fire department, but for other communities. So I think our funding to them is important. I think what we're doing now is adequate. I would like to also see our chief or other members of that fire department bring more information to us as the public. Tell us about all the training they're doing. Tell us about all the unique instances that they're preparing to handle in our community. So I think that just helps show what a good job they do and what they are doing.
Thank you. Same question, Mike Gwartney.
I think that the city council on last year's budget did a great job of funding the volunteer fire department. I love that we have a volunteer fire department and that we have one in town, and that they do a good job of training their people and the personnel related to that. And I think the funding that we're doing there right now and for the building and for their workman's comp is right where it should be. Would like to see a little more training of the residents of Double Oak. What do we need to know about keeping our trees trimmed back? Or what do we need to know about keeping fire control down in certain areas? Or what do we need to know about anything in our house to make it more safe and better protected? Training in that area would be a great area for them to maybe look at. So,
thank you. Lisa Miller, your response, please.
Yes, I feel the funding that we currently provide to the volunteer fire department is on par. As being a wife of a volunteer firefighter, I've seen how their trainings go and how ingrained they actually are in our community. It's just not them going out and when there's an emergency. You know, they also have their 4th of July party. They do Santa in Double Oak. We just helped with the pancake breakfast. We're all out there. We help a lot with the Double Oak Women's Club. And they definitely help create a culture that we all love here in Double Oak.
Thank you. For the next question, we begin with Ginger Brittain. Question is, with the continued increase in property appraisals, would you commit to keep lowering Double Oak's property tax rate the next budget year by voting for the no new revenue rate?
No one wants to see their taxes go up. So I think the council would have to look very closely at why we would want to increase taxes. I think we could and need to have some additional explanation on where those appraisals come from. You know, how much of our tax base is school taxes? What is Denton County taxes? Not only what affects the small tax base or whatever tax base we are here in Double Oak, but the overall picture of when you get your appraisal statement, what those line items mean, and how we can better look at each one of those items and see what we can do as a town to lower those, or why we possibly have to increase them because of the needs of the budget or needs of our community. So I think we need some more continuing education as well on how those taxes are arrived at.
Thank you. Same question, Mike Gwartney.
I'd like to see no new revenue for next year's budget, and I'd like to see us more involved with the appraisal district in the sense of educating the residents as to how they can lower their appraisal value, even to the point of maybe bringing in a company that does that for a living to help them lower their taxes in general. I hired a company to do that this past year and lowered my taxes, not my appraisal value, my taxes by $4,000. I understand that Double Oak needs tax money to run the government, but I also understand that my job is not to pay as much tax as I possibly can.
Thank you. Same question for Lisa Miller.
Yes, I agree also with the no new revenue rate for next year, as long as our property values continue to go up. What it's looking like currently is that they are starting to level out, and we'll just have to see what the future holds and then go ahead and make those decisions as they come along.
Thank you. Same question, Pat Wellen.
I agree with the no new revenue rate and am committed to staying there. We recently, at the end of our street, had a home sale, the first one, for over $1 million. And so all of the people that I'm talking to right there are really worried about what their home valuation is going to be and have asked that we look at staying with the no new revenue rate.
Thank you. I hold in my hand the final question of the evening. And we begin with Mike Gwartney. The question is, what is the biggest issue in the council election that has not been discussed tonight?
The biggest issue that has not really been discussed is for the council, it was for the mayors, is volunteers. I think that I started coming here this past year ago when they misspent dollars from the SFLR funds. And people don't volunteer or don't get involved unless it hurts them. And so when it starts to hurt them, then they start getting involved and then they want to be a part of it, okay? And I'm not sure how you get volunteers to come out. I think we had a good turnout tonight. I'd love to see this turnout on Mondays when their council meetings are here. I spoke to one person tonight who said, I used to come here and I was the only person for council meetings, and it was nice. But it's also a lot of fun when there's a lot of people here. It can get very interesting. So I would love to see more volunteers, is I think what we need to talk about.
Thank you. Same question, Lisa Miller.
Yes, one of the biggest issues that I feel that was not addressed is how are we going to deal with the surrounding development and how it's going to impact Double Oak. As we know, with the Cummings Ranch and the Smith Family Ranch and all the development on the Cross Timbers Conservation Development District, looking at those plans and going to those meetings that I have attended, I can definitely see how it's going to be a major impact. They are going to widen Shiloh all the way through, and it is very, very scary because we don't know if it's going to go exactly all the way to Kings, and then with the new bond coming up that we have to improve Kings, how that's actually going to affect. So we do not want it to be a throughway. We need to be very, very careful on what we do.
Thank you. Pat Wellen, your response?
Okay, one of the topics I don't think has been discussed tonight is strategic planning. I would like the town to start looking at a future focus 3 to 5 years out rather than trying to catch up to everything and doing things as it comes at us. So having residents, we're having this plan that's coming out on drainage, having that as part of our strategic plan, having how we're going to deal with growth in the area as part of our strategic plan so that we can consider these things before they happen to us and stop being reactionary and start being proactive.
Thank you. Same question, Ginger Brittain.
Well, I think we've touched on a number of issues tonight through these questions, and the new council will definitely have a full plate of items to address once they're placed. Importantly to me is the council and the mayor must remain true to serving our residents, putting all other agendas aside and come prepared to listen with an open mind to all aspects of the town's initiatives. With this, the end result brings us the best possible solutions for the current and future Double Oak.
Thank you. All right, we'll now conclude with closing statements, and each candidate will have 1 minute for their closing. We ask them in reverse order to the opening, so we begin with Pat Wellen.
All right. Thank you for listening to the candidates tonight. It takes courage to run for office, and so I'm glad that there are 4 of us up here running so that you have a choice. As I talk to people around town, I've heard concerns about drainage, roads, traffic, and safety. I've also heard you want more transparency in governance of the town and how your money is spent. So if elected, here are my commitments to you. I promise to be transparent in my words and actions. I promise to be financially responsible because I understand every dollar spent comes out of your pocket. I promise to listen to the residents of Double Oak and be proactive in my outreach. I promise to be dedicated to the improvement of Double Oak, be it roads, drainage, or other concerns that you have. I don't make these promises lightly, and I do expect you to hold me accountable to these promises. I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you, Pat. Lisa Miller, your closing statement, please.
Yes, first I want to thank everyone again for coming out and listening to all the candidates tonight. I'm asking for your vote in the upcoming election. I am a huge supporter of the volunteer fire department and the police department. I have a servant heart and I love Double Oak. I want to be a voice for all the people in Double Oak, and I am willing to spend our money responsibly and looking for ways to get more volunteers involved in our community. And I want to make sure that we have families coming back generation after generation.
Thank you. Mike Gwartney, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Cross Timbers Gazette, for hosting this forum, and thank you, Max and Bob and Ryan, for being here, and thank you for everybody that came out. I'll say it again. I am running because I'm concerned about the way my tax dollars have been spent. The previous council allowed money to be spent frivolously that they should not have spent. I believe it is my money, my tax dollars. I believe it is your money, and I believe it is your tax dollars. A council member once said that they will always do their homework and come prepared to defend any decision, only to show up and in the last few meetings unprepared and unable to justify costs and savings. Whether you're running for council or mayor, I believe the taxpayer you are the constituents and come first. So I will always side on the side of the taxpayer. If you want a council member who serves the taxpayer, then please vote for me, Mike Gwartney.
Thank you. Ginger Brittain, your closing statement, please.
As a member of the founding family, it is my honor and obligation to carry on what Bill and Nettie Brittain started here in 1974. I will continue the forward thinking which has brought Double Oak to the great town it is today. I will work hard toward goals which are advantageous to every resident and best for the future of Double Oak. My experience as a prior council member, leadership skills, and the commitment to serve makes me your best choice to serve you, the residents of Double Oak, as Town Council. I want to thank you in advance for your vote and future support. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the candidates. If you would, please give them a round of applause. Thank you. How about a round of applause for our timekeeper, Ryan Tyler? Thank you, Ryan. A reminder that tonight's forum is being recorded by the town of Double Oak and can be viewed at crosstimbersgazette.com. Early voting for the May 6th election begins on Monday, April 24th and ends on Tuesday, May 2nd. Visit votedenton.gov or call 940-349-3200 for information on your specific polling place. Please visit the Cross Timbers Gazette website at www.crosstimbersgazette.com, on Facebook and Twitter for the latest Southern Denton County news updates. Local lives here. This concludes our program. Thank you to the candidates and Double Oak, and thank you for all attending. Good night.
Anyone that is